After agreeing on deepening trade relations between the United Kingdom and Nigeria before general elections in February 2023, the United Kingdom on Monday simplified its trading rules with Nigeria by cutting tariffs on products exported by Nigeria, saving businesses and consumers millions of pounds a year. The UK's new post-Brexit developing trading scheme will now cover 65 countries, meaning over 99% of the export goods from Nigeria would automatically be eligible for duty-free access to the UK. With the unveiling of this trade scheme, a push to drive pro-growth agenda through wider free trade has been set for the rest of the decade and beyond. How Nigeria consolidates on this launched premise will be the focus of our discussion. I'm Ikaria Clinton. You're welcome to Nigeria Today. And joining us in our studio is the development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengwu. Good to have you with us.
Pleasure to be here. Good evening.
And also beside me here in the studio is Evelyn Obidike. She's the Director of Products Development, Nigeria Export Promotion Council. Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'll start with you, Doc. You just had the cotton tariff by the UK. What does this spell for the Nigerian economy?
Well, it's both good and bad. Good in the sense that opportunities have been opened. Bad, maybe not bad as in very bad, is now interrogating our readiness, because it's one thing for you to say bring in your goods, it's another thing for you to have the goods to bring. And it's another thing for your goods to qualify for what you call the British standards. Now, for a country that, I don't know if that has changed, maybe the director might help us. A lot of our products have been listed as not being eligible even 20 years ahead. Okay, especially our perishables, especially our food items. And these are the things we can easily export because of the kind of processing, low processing, low storage, low value adding systems that we have in Nigeria. We have a gamma irradiation plant that has never functioned. So 80% of our goods, that go abroad are actually rejected. So it's one thing to celebrate that you have this free tariff, and of course, which it's not very much to our advantage, as it were. There's a lot of struggle now between the Euro economy and the British economy, vis-a-vis establishing new markets. So while I applaud it, I also want to say it's not uhuru yet, okay? Because the question will be, yes, I've asked you to supply me with goods. Do you have the minimums? Are you able to, supply these goods on a sustainable basis, or can you be able to guarantee the volume that can now allow you to be able to now get into long-term contracts and then still be able to keep those standards? That would be my opinion.
Okay, Evelyn, as much as Doc has said, that it's not a hurry yet. It's both good and bad, just like he said. He rightly said why he said what he said. Now, how significant is this cut in tariff or this scheme that have been made available to about 65 countries in the world, given the fact that we have quite a lot of challenges that have been facing international trade, especially, of course, the export industry. So how significant is this cut in tariff?
Thank you very much. This trading scheme is very, very important, and it is one that Nigeria has to take up. Nigerian Export Promotion Council have seen this cut in tariff as an opportunity for us to diversify our non-oil exports, both in volumes and in value. And we are ready, and we have started work. We are working together with the regulatory agencies there in UK to find out what are the specifics that are required Because when you are talking about non-oil exports, the agro-allied and the agriculture sector takes a bigger chunk. Having known what those regulations that are required, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, through the workshops, seminars, we've been able to educate the exporters. But that is not all. Product has to be get ready, has to be prepared. And in preparing the product to fit into that scheme, like he said, certification comes in. And it starts right from the farm gate. From the farm gate, the way the whole supply chain, value addition, according to the specifics. And then packaging and labeling, certification of the product, talking about HACCP, talking about the BRC, British Retail Consortium, and then you talk about documentation. It's a process, but we're equal to the tax. And Nigerian Export Promotion Council, we started it. We were there when the MOU was signed, and we know what it takes, and we're working together with them to make sure that Nigeria is not left out. Of course, we're talking about 65 countries. We can't keep quiet. We have to take the bull by the horn. Agric is a sector that we have to go all out. It will interest you that just last year, 2022, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, through one of its program and project, what we call Go Global, Go certifications, we intervene in the food sector. SMEs, totally 100, we are, through the NAPC's intervention, got the basic, which is the HACCP certification, hazard analysis, critical control points, which is required to export goods. And in addition, some have even gotten more, ISO, BRC, fair trade, halal, and what have you. So we know that it is work, and we are already working. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Doc, as much as he has told us that the NEPC
Yes.
are ready, of course, they are doing everything possible, even though it is not all set yet, from what you just said. It's not all set yet, but they are doing their best. They've started. However, we are still grappling with food insecurity in Nigeria. And we have to at least satisfy our internal economy before we think of exporting. Now, given this issue that is on ground, are we ready for exportation?
You see, that's why I started by saying that, it has to be volume unlocking value. So the first question you ask is, are we producing food in Nigeria? This will shock you. Because a lot of what you think is produced in Nigeria is actually brought in. A lot of the tomato paste that you use, practically all, if not most of it you use, is imported. Okay, a lot of the ingredients for the additives you people, the women use, you go into a shop and all these little packs you buy from shops are all imported. Okay, even if they're not imported, packaged. Okay, a lot of them are brought in and then repackaged in Nigeria. And why is this so? It is so because Nigeria has not grown. Our food production systems have not grown with our population. Okay, in other climes that have, grown with our level of population, what they do is that they no longer talk about rain-fed agriculture. It's a paradox that a country that has over 200 million people are still depending on people who are carrying hoe and machetes to go to the farm and depending on time and season to be able to produce food. Now, it's even worsened with what's the challenges of climate change, okay? Because a lot of our lands are not even that fertile anymore. Now, what point am I trying to make? If you're talking about food insecurity, it is just not a challenge, it's a national disaster. Okay, because one, you have the major problem of climate change. You have the problems of insurrections and insurgency. You have the problem of banditry. You have the problem of low energy. You have the problem of storage. You have the problem of transportation. You have the problem of aggregation. And then, above all, you also now have the problem of everybody planting what they think, or how they think they can best plant. So you might be shocked that in a radius of 2 kilometers, you can't be able to put all the egusi or melon seeds planted by the same set of farmers together, aggregate it, and they can pass any test. Now, this is not Madam's challenge, as it were. You must give it to the NEPC in promoting exports of Nigeria. Kudos to them. I know this because I've done 1 or 2 things, with them. They are out there trying to preach, But 80% of the times, policy is not enough. Because the extension services, Madam as director of a trade policy, would not be in charge of extension officers. It might be a role that the Ministry of Agriculture will be playing. And I'll be very surprised if Madam says to me that there's a network now where the extension officers and the policy officers and everybody is now sitting to now, from time to time, identify farms to be able to say, where are these products coming from? Who are producing them? How are they being stored? How are they being packaged? I wouldn't know if they do this. I'd be shocked if they do. Because agriculture, of course, is an area I'm a little bit proficient in. So, point I'm trying to make is that it is one thing for us to say 65 countries have a lot of opportunities to be able to bring in things into the UK. Second question is, what are we taking into the UK? 100 years ago, we were taking raw materials, raw food, raw products. 100 years down the line, are we now taking finished products, or are we still taking these raw materials, which in economics is called valorization? Are we now all gathering our zobo and then putting onto a ship, and then it's coming back as something else into Nigeria? Would that be fair trade? Okay, because it's one thing for you to trade, it's also another thing for you to have fair trade. And coming there is where you now start looking at your trade policies. Now, who controls this trade policy? Would it be Madam? Would it be NEPC? Or will it be the Ministry of Trade and Investment? And what will be the relationship and synergy, working partnership you have with those who are issuing or developing our trade policies? She was talking about codes. I'll be very shocked. Okay, if we have more than 2 or 3 products, raw materials that have codes in Nigeria, but this is not a time we won't come here to struggle. I think probably what will have come is to evoke that if you're talking about halal, and you have to get every code for everything you call halal, it's not enough for you to declare halal. Okay, there's a halal code for mutton, you'll be surprised. There's a halal code for X, B, C, D. It's ditto for the HS codes, or HTS codes that she's talking about. Who is codifying? Who is issuing these codes? Is it SON, or is it National Export Promotion Council? Again, what is the synergy and what's the relationship? That's, I think, where most of these challenges will be.
All right, but before we continue, I know you have a lot to say to that,
Yeah,
but before we continue, let's pause for a break. But please don't touch the dial. We'll be right back.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that are questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today. Welcome back. It is still Nigeria today, and my guests are still with me. Evelyn, you heard what Doc said earlier. He's raised quite a lot of issues. Now, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council has in the past year identified poor packaging and labeling as, as one of the many challenges confronting export products in Nigeria. And you and I know that even though the UK, they give a cut in their tariff, they definitely will not go down on their standard, or they might not go down on their standard. So, and he also mentioned something. How many products do we have? How ready are we with this product?
Thank you very much. We are ready, and we have a lot of products. I can mention some of the products that's under the new UK Development Trading Scheme that they've identified for Nigeria. Apart from the services sector, of course, we are talking about urea, we're talking about cashew, we are talking about, you mentioned tomato yet, then we're talking about plantain, talking about sesame seed. We're also talking about cut flowers, and we're also talking about other like cocoa. Of course, you can't talk about Nigeria without cocoa. Yes, a lot of interventions have taken place. In terms of this certification, because maybe he didn't really believe, the NEPC worked together with the GIZ, okay, GIZ, and it took right from the farm gate, traceability, okay, from the farmers to aggregator to processors, then the value-added products before these certifications we are giving to the SMEs. But that does not mean that we have gone all over. Like I said, we have started, and it is very important. And that is why in NEPC we have a complete unit, a packaging unit that is in charge of packaging and labeling. It will interest you to know that on March 8th specifically this year, you know what happened on the March 8th? That's the International Women's Day. We had over 200 women that came around. We had a program to celebrate women at NEPC. And the CEO promised them, having looked at the exhibit, the product that we exhibited, we identified labeling and packaging. And within a month, we were able to set up an intervention program. We examined one-on-one all the product, all the packages, brought in experts to work also with our own in-house experts, and we are working on this women now. And from Abuja, we are taking it up to Kebbi State, to Lagos, and to Kano. We are going around. It is important. That is just one of it. Then you talk about cashew. Before, when you talk about cashew export, all people know is the RCN. But it will interest you that as we are talking now, Nigeria has more than 17 cashew processing companies that are adding value and that are exporting the kernels, ready-made nuts. So it is not just what we used to be before. NEPC have come in and we have identified the challenges, and we are working, taking it one by one. As for getting the British standard, that's what I said, that we went there, we went to the market, led by the CEO, Dr. Ezra Yakosak. We engaged them. We went to the ports. We went to the different regulatory agencies, and we asked them on the table, what is the standard? What is the expectation? And we come back. Okay, so that is a good starting point. To mention just a few. You're talking about urea. Nigeria, the export of urea has exceeded that of sesame seed. As at 2001, top on the list was sesame and cocoa. But now, urea has exceeded that. Talking about Nigerian tea, talking about other nuts, talking about spices, we have them. I don't believe that everything in Nigeria is imported. Some people have flair for that, but the production of these products have tripled because of interventions. Pro Cashew is in GIZ, pro-cashew. And then NEPC also had interventions, collaborations we had with the CBI Netherlands, which is still on ginger. Believe you me, in the next 6 months, Nigeria ginger will be one of the best in the whole world. We are not talking about export or raw products. We are talking about value-added products. We are looking at products where we have niche, where Nigeria can have it, and that is what we are focusing on. If we get it right, and then we spread it. And we know that with our technical partners, we will get it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Doc, I can see you're smiling. I hope you're satisfied with everything that you've heard so far. But then, Doc, I want to ask, what should the Nigerian government do internally for us to maximize this benefit? Because as much as you've reeled out challenges, it still it has its advantages.
If I was the DG of NEPC, I'll be giving Madam an award. I mean, nobody could have put this better. Okay, but the reality is that what GIZ will do is to give you technical support. They cannot give you certification. Okay, they might be able to guide you. They are not a certifying agency. In Nigeria, it's only the SON now that has, the absolute right to give you goods. And like I said, I'm involved. For that one time, I had done some, when they were talking about the Beyond Oil, I had done some technical work for you people.
Yes.
So I know what I'm talking about. And when in that committee, somebody was talking about being able to export millions and millions and millions of metric tons of palm oil. And I just said, where are the palm oil trees? When was the last time we replanted? Where do you have these new plantations? Ditto for cashew. What we are doing is the wide varieties. I stand to be corrected, and that's why I'm saying that Madam's job is cut out, okay, which is the policy. You can't fault it. Okay, if I was the president listening to this, you can be certain that I have an essay, because she knows her onions. But it is one thing for you to be able to have very beautiful policies. It's also another thing for you to be able to translate those policies to programs and actions. And it is at this level that we have issues. Cashew that you're talking about, okay, the few ones that are left are not tended. We don't have any existing cashew plantation that our forestry system is as good as finished. Okay, we don't have any nurseries replanting them, and I'm saying this to you officially, and I'm saying it on national television. There's no one nursery that is functioning now that belongs to the federal government. I stand to be corrected. Okay, now, because what the Ministry of Environment that is supposed to be replanting these bushes do is that they plant, in collaboration with the local people. And because of insurrections and insurgencies, a lot of this forest has become home, okay, to bandits and criminals. So it's not a place you go to. There's nowhere in this country now that you can actually take a walk through that forest path alone, even at the heat of the sun. So the point I'm trying to make is that if we are going to be where we are driving to, because you asked me a question, is what can we do right? The first thing we can do right is to change our mindset about production and know that production now is driven more by science, technology, and innovation than it is driven by the old ways. That's one. Two is to be able to now start, doing mapping, our forestry mapping, so that we know what's left of our forest. Okay, if you go and look at our export and import of urea, you might be a little surprised that we import more urea than we export it. Okay, so but these are not, we are not in a contest here. We are looking for solutions to be able to move our country forward.
Yeah.
And NEPC, like I said to you, are doing their best within their limits. However, I have a friend of mine that says, my father made me chairman of this company and tied my hands. And how did he tie my hands? He took the check, and he's the one who approves and signs it. So as much as Mrs. Obidike can talk about what good things they want to do, now, you can meet the British people. They can give you, it's there. You don't even need to go and meet them. You need to be able to qualify from the British food chain for you to get into it. So it's not a conversation we can finish in a day. I think it's work in progress.
Yes.
Let me commend NEPC, okay? You guys are doing a great job. But there is a lot more we need to do to be where we need to be as a country that has 63 million hectares of land. And we're exporting, we're working on less than 2% of it on a commercial basis.
Thank you so much. There's still a lot to be said about this, but then we don't have enough time. Well, that's it on Nigeria Today. We want to thank our guests for sharing their thoughts with us. The development economist, Dr. Emeka Okembu, thank you so much for coming, sharing, contributing. And Evelyn Obidike, Director, Products Development, Nigerian Export Promotion Council, thank you so much for your contribution. And to our viewer, thank you so much for always being a part of this. I am Eukaria Clinton. Goodbye.